Even President Obama, who's been barely visible this campaign, was out over the weekend urging Democrats to vote.
Are we going to vote?
Also out trying to motivate their bases, Rand Paul, Chris Christie, Scott Walker, and Hillary Clinton.
It all comes down, as it always does, to who shows up.
Find them anywhere you can and tell them how important this election is.
Republicans need just 6 seats to recapture the Senate, and most analysts expect it to happen.
Our ground game is whipping their ground game.
In Arkansas, polling suggests Republican Tom Cotton is pulling away from incumbent Senator Mark Pryor. Republicans have tried to make the race about President Obama.
Pryor, O-B-A-M-A.
Democrats in tough races have been running away from the president. Allison Grimes, who is taking on Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, is running this spot.
I'm not Barack Obama.
Tuesday's elections are expected to bring out only about 40% of eligible voters, even though the vote will decide all 435 House districts and 36 governor's seats, as well as control of the Senate. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
All right, the fearless forecaster comes back. He's like the groundhog. Once a year, he shows himself. And we don't know whether it's going to be sunny or cloudy for the days ahead. John Wauge, good to see you.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, what do you figure? You have researched, you've checked the figures, you've done an analysis, and what is your prognostication?
Well, Pat, I am looking at a possible pickup of 7 seats net for the GOP.
7, not 6? They need
no,
6.
Well, I've got 52 Republicans, 48 Democrats at the end of election night, or when they finish revoting in December and January.
You're fearless forecasting. A good friend of ours has got a name like mine, Pat Robertson. You think he's going down?
I do, Pat. There's a maxim in politics, kind of a rule, that incumbents that don't get above 45 almost invariably don't win. And Pat Roberts is stuck at 41, 42. Now, there's a huge get-out-the-vote effort, and every Republican luminary known to man, including 91-year-old Bob Dole, has been on the stump for Roberts, and he could pull it out. I went back and forth on that race for hours.
The other guy is not a Democrat. The Democrat pulled out. And
no.
So this guy's an independent.
And
it's
not so much about Orman as it is about Roberts, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction with Roberts and spending too much time in Washington, not listening to the voters of Kansas. There was a rough primary that he went through, and I just see him not coming through. But I could be wrong. I went over that one for a few hours.
I'm glad to a disclaimer. All right. Now, they need 6 seats to swing to control. It looks like Montana is a done deal. That guy pulled out, so
there are 3 states that are pretty much a done deal: Montana, West Virginia, and South Dakota.
All right, West Virginia, John D. Rockefeller pulled out. I mean, he's retiring, and Shelley Moore Capito
yes,
is running.
Yes, and she's the daughter of a popular former governor, and she's Arch Moore, and she's well ahead. And so that one looks secure for the Republicans to pick up.
All right,
so
that's 2.
That's 2, and then in South Dakota, Mike Rounds, the governor, looks like he's weathered this challenge from Larry Pressler and the Democrat Rick Weiland. So that would be 3 that they've picked up. Arkansas seems to be moving into the Republican camp pretty solidly.
Pryor has distanced himself as far as he can get from the president, but it doesn't seem to do any good. Huh?
No, not in a state as red as Arkansas. And Tom Cotton's been a good candidate, and Iraq War veteran, and pounding away at Obamacare and the votes for Obama, which Republicans all over the country did.
Right, well, now, Colorado is one that, are you including those in the...
I am including Colorado. Cory Gardner in Colorado against Mark Udall has run one of the best campaigns of any Republican candidate this year.
Gardner has, not Udall.
Gardner, correct.
Yeah, Udall has been kind of a one-issue candidate.
He has been, and pounded away at the whole women's issues and the contraception and abortion and that kind of thing. And in fact, the Denver Post called him Senator Uterus.
Yes.
And,
all right, well, what's the other? How about Alaska? Begich.
Alaska looks like the Republicans could take that one as well. Begich has made it close, and this one could be Polls don't close there till 1 in the morning, so we may not know until Wednesday morning when we're on the program what happened there.
All right,
But,
Mary Landrieu, they beat the daylights out of her in Louisiana, and is that going into a runoff, or she got 50%?
Probably. It's probably going into a runoff. She's not going to get 50%. So it is going to go into a runoff. I don't think that the Republican Bill Cassidy, because he's running against another Republican as well, I don't think he can get 50% either. So it's probably going to a December runoff.
In a runoff, he beats Landrieu, right?
Most likely, yes. We don't know what the landscape will be then, but if control of the Senate is at stake there, I think he beats her, yes.
Well, what's next? What's the other one?
Well, we've got, if we could take a look at the map, we've got the states in red where the Republicans, there it is, Pat. Now you see Kansas is in yellow for independent win. And then you see Arkansas, West Virginia, Louisiana, Iowa. We didn't talk about Iowa.
And it looks like that Joni Ernst she's the one that used to castrate hogs.
Yes, and she went immediately up the charts in fame by winning the Republican primary, largely on the strength of that ad. She's run a good campaign since then. Every single Democratic heavyweight, from Michelle Obama to both Clintons, have been there in the last 5 days.
Michelle and mispronounced them. They called him Bailey instead of Braley.
She mispronounced the Democrat's name. That didn't help any, but she's pulled out to a 7-point lead in the Des Moines Register's poll, which is a respected poll, and it looks pretty good for her. And so I've got 8 wins for Republicans, taking away seats. The loss of 1 seat to an independent gives a net gain of 7 for the Republicans.
Is there any chance of a blowout beyond those figures?
Yes, there is a chance of the blowout. I didn't give New Hampshire, which I gave them to the Democrats.
Scott Brown could easily take
North Carolina's a dead heat. I gave that to the Democrats. Michigan, Virginia, Minnesota are all floating just outside the radar screen, so they're not out of it.
Al Franken, he's not going to lose, is he?
Well, no, probably not, but the last poll showed him in single digits. And,
really?
And so you'd have to have a Republican wave. You would have to have such a huge turnout against the Democrats that it puts a lot of these states in play. And every year there's one state where the Democrat is 9 points, or the Republican's 9 points down in the final poll, and they come up and win. So you always have surprises.
What about Virginia? You think, Gillespie?
One poll shows it at 4 points. I don't necessarily believe that. I didn't pick Gillespie, but it's got the Democrats a little nervous.
Well,
anyway.
Gillespie's been pouring ads on the last few days.
And so has Warner, appearing with Republican John Warner in a number of ads as well. So Northern Virginia is solid for Warner. The rest of the state looks like it might lean toward Gillespie. So.
All right. What's the other state that's toss up?
Boy, there's New Mexico is one outside the radar screen that you got to at least look at. That's another Udall, Tom Udall, who is a couple polls have showed it under 10 points for the challenger Alan Way. So these are a number of races where they don't look like they're going to go to the Republicans, but there's still a possibility. So.
How about governor? Is Scott Walker going to make it in Wisconsin?
I think he's going to by the skin of his teeth. Yeah. 3 elections in 4 years. Huge labor union turnout against him. Some couple last polls look encouraging, but he's not out of the woods for sure. And then the race in Florida is going to go down to the wire with Charlie Crist. I wouldn't be surprised if Charlie Crist beats Rick Scott in Florida.
No kidding.
Yeah, Republicans are going to lose in Pennsylvania. The incumbent Republican there is going to lose. But the big story for governors may be Democrats in the Northeast and Illinois falling to people who are sick of high taxes. And
how about Kansas? Is there any chance that,
I think Brownback is going to pull it out.
He's very popular.
It's been a tough challenge, but I think Brownback is going to hold on.
We didn't talk about the House. What do you think? Another 10, 12 seats maybe?
That's exactly it. Yeah, I think the Republicans have what they call a drive for 245. I think they're going to get, they now have 233 seats, as you see there. I think they're going to pick up about the 12 seats they need to get 245, which would put them right at about where they were at the end of World War II when they won 55 seats. And then Harry Truman later campaigned against the Do-Nothing Congress. So we'll see if the Democrats try and do that.
When you get that many, the Tea Party won't be able to block initiatives from Boehner, or whatever that means.
Well, yes and no.
Yes,
I mean,
okay.
I think on certain issues, the Tea Party is going to drive the Republican Party, but I don't think it's going to present some fissures within the Republicans, both in the House and in the Senate. There's no doubt about that. You've already got Ted Cruz saying we've compromised for years now during presidential years, and it hasn't worked. So we got to try something different. It's going to be an interesting.
One last question. Any surprise, anything could happen that would reverse any of these fearless prognostications?
Well, a better than expected turnout. This Democratic vote getting apparatus that we talked about the last time I was on, Pat, they can micro-target voters, and they may be able to pick off some of these House seats with that. I don't think they're going to pick off the Senate, but if there's a higher than expected turnout because of their micro-targeting, the gains could be less than we think, but it's not looking that way.
Well, it looks like the blacks are less than excited about going to the polls, and some of the so-called millennials.
The millennials look like they're at least willing to give Republicans a chance.
Yeah.
Women voters don't seem to be as heavily in the Democratic camp as they have been. So a lot of the demographic groups that the Democrats count on do not seem happy this election cycle.
Well, John, it's going to be interesting, and the president has said, my policies are on the ballot. They're on the agenda, and so it would be a repudiation of his policies if he gets beaten. But we'll talk probably the next day or two about what this will mean to our country, assuming Harry Reid is no longer majority leader, but is now a minority leader, and Mitch McConnell is running the Senate. It'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen.
It will, Pat. And keep in mind, we may not know till December or January if it's that close because of Louisiana and Georgia.
Georgia, both of those could be in the, who knows. Well, anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, this is a democracy we live in, and a republic, but it's your chance to vote. And I want to say, your vote is crucial. So don't think, well, it's all settled. No, it's not settled. It's going to depend on you going to the polls and casting a ballot for the candidate of your choice. And you can get election updates from John and the CBN News team on cbnnews.com and Facebook and Twitter. And our election night coverage starts at 7 tomorrow night. Whew. John, thank you very much.
Thank you,
God
sir.
bless you.